Mayday. Mayday. This is Flight 2743, declaring a medical emergency. The captain's voice pierced the stillness of the night as the Boeing 737 soared through the starry sky. The co-pilot had suddenly collapsed, leaving Carlos Silva alone at the controls of the aircraft, carrying 143 passengers and facing over 3 hours of flight ahead. Among the passengers, Sofia Martinez, a 12-year-old girl, felt her heart racing, not from fear but from an odd sense of purpose. Beside her, her mother Regina, head nurse at Central Hospital, was already rising to offer help. "Is there a doctor or nurse on board?" The flight attendant's voice came over the intercom, urgency thinly veiled beneath her professional tone. Regina quickly identified herself and was ushered to the cockpit. Sofia followed quietly, her hands trembling not with nervousness but anticipation. Years spent on a flight simulator in her room might finally mean more than just a waste of time, as her mother often called it. "Critical blood pressure," Regina announced, kneeling beside the unconscious co-pilot. "He needs urgent medical attention. He's showing signs of..." Captain Carlos was frantically consulting his navigation charts. "The nearest airport with medical facilities is almost 4 hours away." "There's one closer," Sofia interjected, her voice small but steady. All eyes turned to her. "Sofia, this is not the time to..." Regina began, but the captain raised a hand, cutting her off. "Go on, young lady. South Regional Airport, 178 nautical miles, heading 045. Runway 2,800 meters, ILS operational, hospital less than 10 kilometers away," Sofia said without hesitation. "It has EMAS at the thresholds and the tower operates 24/7. The captain stared at her, astonished. "How do you know all this?" "Flight simulator, sir. I have over 2,000 hours of practice. This is my favorite sector for emergency approach drills." Regina looked at her daughter with a mix of amazement and disbelief. All those hours she had criticized, all the lectures about wasting her youth on games. Sofia observed every movement in the cockpit intently, her heart pounding as she absorbed every detail. Years of studying on her simulator had etched every instrument, every procedure into her memory. Through the window, dark clouds were forming on the horizon, adding another layer of complexity to the situation. "Captain," Sofia called, her voice steadier now. "There's a storm cell forming on the direct route. If we divert 15 degrees east, we'll hit a clearer corridor." Carlos checked the weather radar, confirming the girl's assessment. Regina, still monitoring the unconscious co-pilot, glanced at her daughter with newfound respect. Every word Sofia spoke carried a confidence Regina had never fully noticed before. "Sofia," Regina said softly, "how did you learn all this?" The girl hesitated for a moment, years of discouragement weighing on her voice. "Do you remember when you took away my simulator for a month, saying I was getting too obsessed?" Regina nodded, guilt tightening in her chest. "I spent that whole month at the library studying meteorology and air navigation. When I couldn't fly, I learned about flying. When you thought I was playing online, I was in professional pilot forums, learning about real-life experiences." Sofia's voice wavered slightly. "Every time you said it was just a phase, I studied harder. Every time I heard that girls shouldn't dream about this, I doubled my effort." The silence in the cockpit was broken only by the steady beeping of the instruments. Carlos, focused on the controls, couldn't help but smile in admiration. "Control center," he called into the radio, "PX 2743 requesting vectors for ILS approach to runway 04 at regional." As they awaited a response, the turbulence worsened. The co-pilot let out a faint groan, his condition still concerning. "Sofia," Carlos called, "I need you to monitor the radar while I prepare for the approach. Any significant changes in the conditions, let me know immediately." Regina wanted to protest. Her 12-year-old daughter shouldn't bear such responsibility. But the words caught in her throat as she saw Sofia's transformation. Every trace of insecurity had vanished, replaced by an intense, professional focus. "Convective cell intensifying 2 miles from final approach," Sofia reported, her eyes glued to the radar. "I suggest a steeper descent before the outer marker to avoid the area of highest turbulence." Her daughter's technical precision hit Regina like a punch to the stomach. How many times had she dismissed this passion? How many nights had she scolded Sofia for wasting time on her aviation studies? The plane began its final descent through the heavy clouds. Sofia never took her eyes off the instruments, delivering precise updates on wind speed and runway conditions. Every word she spoke reflected years of dedicated study and true passion. "Runway in sight," Carlos announced, his gaze locked on the rain-soaked horizon. Landing checklist, Sophia began instinctively, catching everyone by surprise. Flaps. Landing position checked, Carlos replied, a smile tugging at his lips. Landing gear? Down and locked, 3 green. Regina watched the exchange, tears welling in her eyes. Her daughter, whom she had tried so hard to protect from a dangerous dream, was helping to save a life. The landing was smooth as silk. As soon as the aircraft came to a halt, ambulances rushed toward it to attend to the co-pilot. At the terminal, a small commotion began to form. It wasn't every day a commercial flight made an emergency landing at the regional airport. Roberto Mendez, the operations manager, wasn't alone when he stepped into the cabin. Beside him stood Commander Maria Oliveira, head instructor of the Young Pilots program, her 4 golden stripes gleaming under the cockpit lights. "I came as soon as I heard," Maria said, her experienced eyes assessing Sophia with interest. "It's not every day we have an aspiring pilot assisting in a real emergency." Sophia blushed but maintained the upright posture she had adopted throughout the situation. Maria smiled and turned to Regina. "You know, I was discouraged too when I was younger. Women aren't made for this, they said. But some of us are born with wings in our souls." Regina wiped away a tear. "I only wanted to protect her." "The best protection we can give our children," Maria said gently, "is to help them fly safely, not stop them from spreading their wings." The paramedics rushed in, carrying the still unconscious co-pilot. "A crucial decision to land here," one of them remarked. "It bought us precious time." "Actually," Carlos interjected, "the decision was based on a suggestion from our young consultant here." He gave Sophia a wink and her eyes shone with restrained excitement. "The program starts in 2 weeks," Maria added, handing Regina a card. "We have a special spot reserved for exceptional talent." As the night unfolded and arrangements were made for the continuation of the original flight, Sophia and Regina remained in the airport operations room. Through the large windows they could see other aircraft landing and taking off, their lights cutting through the darkness like shooting stars. "Mom," Sophia called softly, "do you think Grandma will understand if we're a little late? There's a lecture on aviation meteorology here at the airport tomorrow morning." Regina pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. "I think she'll understand perfectly. In fact, I think all of us should have understood sooner." Sophia's smile lit up the room brighter than all the runway lights combined. Because that night, it wasn't just a co-pilot who had been saved, it was a dream finally given permission to take flight. And as the lights of the aircraft continued their nightly ballet outside, mother and daughter began writing a new chapter in their lives. A chapter where fears gave way to confidence, doubts turned into support, and a medical emergency had transformed into the opening page of a love story with aviation that was just beginning. The sun had barely risen when Sophia and Regina returned to the airport the next morning. The administration building, a modern structure of glass and steel, reflected the first golden rays of the day. Sophia clutched a worn blue folder to her chest, stuffed with notes, simulator flight reports and aviation clippings she had collected over the years. "Nervous?" Regina asked, noticing how her daughter was biting her lower lip, a habit that always betrayed her anxiety. "A little," Sophia admitted. "What if Commander Maria realizes that yesterday was just luck? What if I'm not good enough for the program?" Regina stopped, holding her daughter's shoulders. "Sophia, yesterday you helped save a life. That wasn't luck, it was knowledge, dedication and courage." Before Sophia could respond, a familiar voice called out to them. Maria Oliveira was crossing the lobby toward them, her uniform impeccable and a warm smile on her face. "Welcome. I see you're punctual, another essential quality for a pilot." Maria gestured toward the hallway. "Let's begin our tour with the briefing room. We have a surprise waiting for you." As they entered the room, Sophia froze. Sitting at the conference table was Commander Carlos, still in his uniform from the day before, chatting with Roberto Mendez and, her heart nearly stopped. There too was Ana Torres, the legendary pilot who had been the first woman to command transatlantic cargo flights in the country. "Sophia?" Carlos stood up, smiling. "I was just telling Commander Torres about your performance yesterday." Ana Torres approached, her experienced eyes studying Sophia with interest. "So, this is our young heroine? You know, when I started my career 30 years ago, they said women had no place in the cockpit." She paused, a wry smile on her lips. "Today, I'm the one selecting candidates for the Young Pilots program. And I must say, I've rarely seen such potential." Sophia felt her face flush. "Ma'am, I brought my simulator logs and some notes." She timidly extended the worn blue folder. Anna took the folder with genuine interest, her eyes widening slightly as she flipped through the pages. Impressive. You've kept detailed records of every simulated flight, meteorological analyses, fuel consumption calculations. She glanced at Maria. Have you ever seen anything like this? Maria stepped closer to examine the documents. Extraordinary. Most candidates can barely tell the difference between heading and course when they get here. Roberto cleared his throat, glancing at his watch. Well, since we're all here, how about we begin the practical test? Practical test? Regina and Sophia asked in unison. Normally, Anna explained, candidates spend months on theory before they're anywhere near a professional simulator. But given yesterday's exceptional circumstances, we think you've earned the chance to show your skills on our equipment. The back doors of the room swung open, revealing an area Sophia had only ever seen in magazines, a professional flight simulator training center. This is a Level D simulator, Maria explained as they walked in. It's the same equipment used for commercial pilot training. Each hour here costs more than an economy car. Sophia barely breathed as she climbed the steps to the simulator cabin. The interior was identical to that of a real Boeing aircraft, every button, every display exactly where it was supposed to be. We're going to simulate an approach under adverse conditions, Anna announced, taking the instructor's seat. International airport, wet runway, strong crosswinds, and a hydraulic failure to make it interesting. Regina, watching from the instructor's area through the glass, clasped her hands nervously. Isn't that too much for a first time? Carlos smiled gently. Sometimes pressure is what we need to reveal what we're truly capable of. The simulator came to life. Sophia adjusted her seat, put on the headset, and began the checklist procedures with a natural ease that even surprised Anna. ILS approach, runway 11, wind 170 degrees at 25 knots, wet runway, yellow hydraulic system inoperative. Sophia repeated the conditions, her hands already adjusting the instruments. What followed left every observer in silence. Sophia wasn't just flying, she was anticipating every scenario, managing the systems efficiently, and maintaining clear and professional communication. Loss of the green hydraulic system, Anna suddenly announced, raising the stakes. Sophia didn't even blink. Her hands flew over the controls, executing the emergency procedures she had studied hundreds of times. Switching to backup hydraulic system. Adjusting approach speed to compensate. Requesting immediate landing priority. The final approach was carried out with surgical precision. The landing was smooth despite all the challenges thrown her way. When the normal lights came on, Regina had tears in her eyes. Her daughter wasn't just chasing a dream, she was living her calling. Well, Anna said, a broad smile on her face, I think we can skip a few steps in the selection process. Sophia, you don't just have natural talent, you have the dedication and maturity this program requires. Maria nodded in agreement. I've never seen anything like it in someone so young. With proper training? She glanced meaningfully at Regina. Your daughter could become one of the best. Regina hugged Sophia, who was still trembling with emotion. Forgive me, sweetheart. All this time, I was so focused on protecting you that I didn't see how much you had already grown. Roberto cleared his throat, clearly moved. Well, I think there's just one thing left. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. A full scholarship for the program, including the uniform. Sophia took the envelope with trembling hands. Inside were not only the scholarship documents but also a pair of miniature golden wings, the symbol given to all cadets at the start of their training. Welcome to the Young Pilots program, Anna said with a smile. Classes start on Monday. And Sophia? She paused meaningfully, keep those notes of yours safe. One day, other young pilots will want to know how it all began. As they left the training center under the bright midday sun, Sophia held her golden wings as if they were the most precious treasure in the world. Regina, meanwhile, held something even more precious, the certainty that her daughter wasn't just dreaming, she was soaring toward her destiny. Mom? Sophia called as they walked across the airport courtyard. Yes, dear? Thank you for not giving up on me. Regina smiled, tears in her eyes. No, Sophia. Thank you for teaching me that sometimes the biggest dreams are the ones that scare us the most. Above them, an airplane took off, its silhouette cutting through the bright morning sky. To Sophia, it wasn't just an aircraft, it was a promise of the future awaiting her. A future that had started with an emergency but was now unfolding into endless possibilities, as vast as the sky itself. Sophia's first week in the Young Pilots program passed like a fevered dream. Every morning brought new discoveries, every afternoon unveiled different challenges. In her special classroom at the airport's training center, she was the youngest among 15 cadets, but her dedication quickly caught everyone's attention. Can anyone explain Bernoulli's principle? Commander Maria asked during the basic aerodynamics class. Before the other students could even process the question, Sophia's hand shot into the air. Her eyes sparkled with that particular intensity that always appeared when the topic was aviation. The principle states that an increase in the speed of a fluid occurs simultaneously with a decrease in its pressure. It's what explains wing lift. The air moving over the top of the wing travels faster than the air beneath it, creating a pressure difference. Maria smiled. Excellent, Sophia. Now, can someone tell me how this applies in practical flight scenarios? The silence that followed was broken by a voice from the door. Perhaps our young prodigy could demonstrate it practically? Ana Torres was standing in the doorway holding a set of documents. Class, we have an interesting situation. The control center is organizing a special observation day for students, and we need a representative from the program to give a presentation on the basic principles of flight. Everyone's eyes turned to Sophia, and she felt her face flush. Public speaking was a whole different thing from technical knowledge. I don't know if... The presentation will be for elementary school children, Ana continued, her eyes locked on Sophia. Children who, like you, dream of the sky but may not have support or guidance. Those words struck Sophia like a bolt of lightning. How many other children were out there, their dreams suffocated by fears and prejudices? How many talents could be slipping away due to a lack of encouragement? I'll do it, she said, her voice steady. When is it? This Saturday, Ana replied, a satisfied smile on her face. And there's one more thing. The local media will be present. The murmur that spread across the room was interrupted by Regina's abrupt arrival, still in her nurse uniform. Her face was pale. Sophia, we need to talk. Regina's expression made Sophia's heart tighten. Her mother only had that look when something truly serious was happening. The co-pilot of Flight 2743, Regina said as soon as they were alone in an adjacent room. He had a complication at the hospital. Sophia felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. He? No, Regina quickly corrected her. He's alive, but... She hesitated. His family is suing the airline. They're claiming negligence for allowing a child to participate in emergency procedures. Sophia's world seemed to collapse. Her entire dream, everything she had achieved in the past weeks, was threatened by something she had done to help. Ana Torres, who had followed mother and daughter, intervened from the door. We are already aware of the situation. In fact, that's why Saturday's presentation has become even more important. What do you mean? Sophia asked, her voice trembling. Commander Carlos provided the flight records. Every decision, every procedure was documented. You not only followed all safety protocols, but your suggestions probably saved his life. Regina hugged her daughter. The hospital doctor confirmed it. If we had gone to the more distant airport? But his family? Is scared and looking for answers, Ana finished. That's why, on Saturday, in addition to the children and the media, we'll have representatives from the National Civil Aviation Agency. They want to use your case to discuss the importance of early training programs. Sophia blinked, confused. I don't understand. Sophia, Ana knelt to be at her level. Sometimes, the biggest changes begin with one person willing to challenge what everyone else thinks is impossible. You didn't break any rules. You showed that age is not the only measure of competence. Maria, who had just dismissed the class, joined them. What happened on that flight wasn't just luck or coincidence. It was the result of years of dedication and serious study. That's what we need to show on Saturday. But, what if I make a mistake? What if you inspire dozens of other children to pursue their dreams with seriousness and dedication? Ana completed. What if you show that programs like this aren't just child's play, but a serious path to shaping the professionals of the future? Regina hugged her daughter tighter. You've already proven you can, Sophia. Now it's time to help others believe they can too. The days that followed were intense. Sophia spent hours preparing her presentation, combining technical principles with practical examples that children could understand. With Maria's help, she built small demonstration models to explain aerodynamics concepts. On Friday night, while reviewing her notes for the 100th time, Sophia received an unexpected visit. Commander Carlos, accompanied by Roberto Mendez, brought important news. The co-pilot's family dropped the lawsuit, Carlos announced, smiling. Actually, they want to meet you. Sophia's eyes widened. Really? Yes. After they saw the flight records and learned about all your dedication to studying aviation, they realized you weren't just a kid playing pilot. Actually, Roberto added, they were so impressed that they want to create a scholarship in the co-pilot's name, to help other young talents have the same opportunity you had. Tears flowed freely down Sophia's face. Suddenly, all the weight of the past few days, all the fear and anxiety, turned into something new: hope. See? Regina smiled, wiping away her own tears. Sometimes what seems like an obstacle is actually a door opening. That night, Sophia fell asleep with a smile on her lips, her cadet uniform carefully prepared for the next day. In her dreams, she wasn't alone in the skies anymore. She was accompanied by dozens of other children, each chasing their own dream of flying. Sometimes, true heroism isn't just about fulfilling our own dreams, but about clearing the way for others to soar as well. Saturday dawned with a perfectly blue sky, not a cloud in sight, the kind of day pilots call unlimited ceiling and visibility. Sophia adjusted the collar of her cadet uniform for the 10th time as she watched the auditorium at the control center begin to fill up. Children of all ages filled the front rows, their eyes sparkling with the same curiosity she had always felt. In the middle rows, journalists prepared their cameras and notebooks. In the back, civil aviation executives and airline representatives spoke in low voices. Nervous? Regina asked, helping her daughter organize the materials for the demonstration. Scared to death, Sophia admitted, her hands shaking slightly as she arranged the small airplane models she'd be using. What if they think it's ridiculous for a 12-year-old girl to talk about aviation? Hey, a familiar deep voice called from behind them. It was the co-pilot of Flight 2743, James Anderson, making his first public appearance since the incident. He was still a little pale, but his smile was genuine. You handled a real emergency with more calm than many veteran pilots. This piece of cake. Sophia ran to hug him, tears in her eyes. Mr. Anderson. I didn't know you'd be here. Missed the chance to see my savior inspire the next generation? He smiled, adjusting his uniform tie. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Commander Maria appeared on stage, signaling that it was time. Sophia took a deep breath, clutching the small airplane model in her hands as if it were a talisman. Remember what you told me in the simulator? Ana Torres whispered, adjusting the microphone on Sophia's uniform lapel. About how you feel when you're flying? Sophia nodded, a small smile appearing on her lips. It's when I feel most like myself. Then be yourself now. Show them what you see when you look at the sky. Maria began the presentation, briefly telling the story of Flight 2743 and introducing Sophia. When the girls stepped onto the stage, the silence was complete. For a moment, Sophia froze, staring at the audience. Then her eyes found a little girl in the front row, no more than 8 years old, holding a small stuffed airplane. In that gaze, Sophia saw her own reflection. The same dream, the same passion. Have you ever wondered why airplanes fly? At first, Sophia's voice was shy, but it gained strength as she picked up one of the models she had prepared. Many people think it's magic, but it's actually science. Science as fascinating as magic. She lifted the model, showing the wings. When I was 7, I asked my teacher why birds could fly. She explained to me about the shape of the wings, the air moving above and below. Sophia started moving the model through the air, demonstrating the wind flow. The children in the front row leaned forward, completely absorbed. But the most amazing thing isn't just understanding how a plane flies, it's realizing that every flight is a different story. The sky is never the same. Each cloud, each wind, every temperature change tells a new story. She turned on the projector, showing images of different types of clouds and weather patterns. On the day of Flight 2743, for example, there was a specific cloud formation that helped us make the right decision. James Anderson, the co-pilot, nodded from the front row, while journalists furiously took notes. But do you know what's more important than all the theories and numbers? Sophia paused dramatically, her eyes scanning the audience. It's understanding that there are no small or too big dreams. There are only dreams that need different wings to fly. She began handing out small paper airplanes she had prepared, each with a different message written on the wing. The children received them with bright eyes. When they told me I was too young to understand aviation, I didn't argue. I just studied more. When they said it was too dangerous, I learned more about safety. Every no I received became fuel to fly higher. Regina, backstage, wiped away tears discreetly. Ana Torres smiled proudly while civil aviation executives whispered among themselves, clearly impressed. And do you know what I discovered? Sophia continued, her voice now filled with emotion. That there's no right age to dream. There's no right time to learn. What matters is the willingness to turn dreams into reality, even when it seems impossible. She picked up one last model, larger and more elaborate. I built this one when I was 9. It was broken, patched together with tape, but it was my treasure. Because every time I fixed it, I learned something new about how it worked. The little girl with the stuffed airplane shyly raised her hand. Were you scared? Sophia smiled gently. Every day. I still am. But you know what I've learned? That courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing something important even with fear. She then began explaining basic aerodynamic principles using analogies the children could understand. She turned complex concepts into captivating stories, advanced physics into emotional adventures. The minutes turned into hours and no one seemed to notice the time passing. The children's questions grew deeper, more curious, more inspired. At the end of the presentation, a surprise. The director of the National Civil Aviation Agency stepped onto the stage. Today, he announced, we are not just witnessing an extraordinary presentation. We are witnessing the birth of a new era in Brazilian aviation. Starting today, the Young Pilots program will be expanded to 5 new airports, with special scholarships for exceptional talents. The auditorium erupted in applause. Sophia could hardly believe what she was hearing. And more, he continued. Sofia Martinez will be our junior ambassador, helping to develop guidelines for the inclusion of young talents in aviation. Regina rushed to hug her daughter, who was now openly crying. James Anderson joined them, followed by Ana Torres and Maria. See? Ana whispered to Sophia. Sometimes a dream isn't just ours, it's a door we open for others to dream as well. As the children gathered around her, asking for autographs on their little paper airplanes, Sophia realized that her journey was just beginning. It was no longer just about fulfilling her own dream, it was about helping others discover that they too could soar. Because sometimes the most important wings aren't the ones that take us to the skies, but the ones we help others discover within themselves. The week following the presentation was a true storm of emotions. The local newspapers couldn't talk about anything else. Young pilot revolutionizes aviation. Prodigy of the skies inspires a new generation. Young pilots program gains national recognition. Sophia could hardly believe it when she saw her photo on the front page of the city newspaper. But with fame came the first real turbulences. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Mom, Sophia confessed one morning as she prepared for another day of classes. Her phone was constantly ringing with interview requests and event invitations. Regina, who was sorting through a stack of letters addressed to her daughter, mostly from children inspired by the presentation, noticed the worried tone in Sophia's voice. Which part exactly? All of it. Sophia sank into the chair, exhausted. The classes are getting harder, I have the responsibilities as junior ambassador, the interviews, and now I found out I have to give a presentation at the National Aviation Congress next month. The third turning point in the story was about to happen. As Sophia vented, Ana Torres hurriedly entered the classroom, her normally calm face showing signs of concern. Sophia, Regina, we need to talk. Now. In her hands, Ana held a newspaper with a headline that made Sophia's blood run cold. Experts question safety of young pilots program, excessive pressure on minors? It's a full report, Ana explained, spreading the paper across the table. They interviewed psychologists, child development experts, even some veteran pilots who are against the program. Sophia felt her heart tighten as she read excerpts from the article. Excessive pressure can cause irreversible psychological damage. Children should focus on age-appropriate activities. Responsibility beyond emotional capacity? This is ridiculous. Regina protested. Sophia has never been so happy, so fulfilled. The problem isn't just the report, Ana continued, her face serious. Some of the program sponsors are hesitating. They're afraid to associate their brands with a potential controversy. Maria Oliveira entered the room, followed by Commander Carlos and Roberto Mendez. They all seemed to have aged years in just a few days. I just came from a meeting with the board, Roberto announced. They want to delay the program's expansion to the other airports. Sophia felt the ground slip away beneath her feet. Because of me? No, darling, Maria was quick to say. It's more complicated than that. The report raised issues that, frankly, we should have anticipated. We need clearer protocols, regular psychological evaluations, more transparency with the families. But what about the other kids? Sophia asked, her voice trembling. The ones who were at the presentation, who finally saw that their dreams were possible? Carlos, who had been silent until then, stepped forward. That's why we need you now more than ever, Sophia. Everyone turned to him, confused. "The National Aviation Congress next month," he continued. "It won't just be a presentation. It will be our chance to show that this program is more than a child's dream. It's a serious path to the future of aviation." "But how?" Sophia asked, still shaken by the report. "They've already decided that I am." "Wrong," Regina interrupted, a new determination in her voice. "They haven't decided anything. They haven't seen what I saw on that flight. They didn't see the late nights of studying, the hours of dedication, the seriousness with which you approach every aspect of your training." Anna smiled for the first time that morning. "Regina is right. And I have an idea." In the days that followed, a coordinated operation began to take shape. Sophia continued her regular classes, but her afternoons were now dedicated to a special project. "We're going to document everything," Anna explained. "Every class, every simulation, every evaluation. We'll show that it's not about putting kids in risky situations. It's about giving young talents the support and structure they need to grow safely." Maria brought in aviation education specialists from across the country. Carlos mobilized other commanders who had started young. Roberto gathered testimonials from parents of other students in the program. But the most important thing, Regina suggested, is to show that Sophia is still a 12-year-old child. One who studies, who plays, who has a normal life, just with an extraordinary dream. And so, between her regular classes and preparations for the Congress, Sophia found a new purpose. Every criticism in the report became a topic to address, every concern an opportunity to show how the program truly worked. "Look at this," she showed Anna one day, presenting a detailed spreadsheet. "I organized all the safety procedures I've learned, from the basics to the advanced. I showed how each step is suited to the age and developmental level of the student." Anna examined the material, impressed. "Sophia, this is extraordinary. It's exactly the kind of documentation we needed." The news of the negative report, which initially seemed like a disaster, began to have an unexpected effect. Letters of support started pouring in from all over the country. Veteran pilots who had begun their studies while young shared their stories. Parents of other children with impossible dreams wrote, thanking Sophia for paving the way. One afternoon, while reviewing the material for the Congress, James Anderson, the co-pilot Sophia had helped save, appeared with a surprise. "I found this in the airline's archives," James said, holding up a yellowed document. "It's the record of the country's first young aviation apprentice program from 1952. Do you know who was in it? My father." Sophia took the document with reverence. The black and white photos showed young people not much older than her, studying with the same dedication, chasing the same dream. "Aviation has always been a dream passed down from generation to generation," James continued. "We can't let fear stop the next generations from taking flight." As the Congress approached, Sophia realized that she was no longer just fighting for her own dream. She was advocating for every child's right to dream big, to be taken seriously, and to receive the guidance and support needed to turn passion into profession. "You know what I've realized, Mom?" Sophia said one night as they organized the final presentations. "That negative report might have been the best thing that ever happened." "How so?" "Because now we're not just showing that it's possible, we're proving that it's necessary. That there are safe and responsible ways to support big dreams, no matter the age of the dreamer." Regina hugged her daughter, proud of her maturity. "And that's why you're going to shine at that Congress, sweetheart. Because you're not just talking about flying, you're teaching all of us to see further." As the Congress date neared, Sophia knew she was about to face her biggest turbulence yet. But like every good pilot, she had learned that you don't avoid storms, you learn to fly through them. And this time she wasn't flying alone. She carried with her the dreams of all the children who, like her, dared to look at the sky and think, why not? The convention center was buzzing with activity that morning. Hundreds of aviation professionals from all over the country had gathered for the 47th National Aviation Congress. In the wide hallways, uniforms from various airlines blended with executive suits and the lab coats of aerospace engineers. Sophia was backstage in the main auditorium, her cadet uniform impeccably pressed, her hands nervously clutching the folder with her presentation. Regina adjusted her daughter's badge on her chest for the 10th time. "Mom, is it crooked again?" "No, it's perfect. Regina hesitated, her eyes welling up. "I'm just trying to delay the moment of letting you go up on that stage alone." She's not alone. Ana Torres appeared, accompanied by Maria and, to Sophia's surprise, James Anderson, fully recovered and in his flight uniform. In fact, James smiled, she has an entire army backing her up. He wasn't exaggerating. In recent days, a real task force had mobilized. Veteran pilots, flight instructors, aviation education psychologists, everyone united not just to support Sophia but the future of the young pilots program. "Have you seen the audience?" Maria asked gently. Sophia peeked through the curtain, and her heart nearly stopped. The 500-seat auditorium was completely packed. In the front row, executives from the country's biggest airlines. In the rows behind, civil aviation authorities, specialized journalists, and, her heart skipped a beat, dozens of children with their parents. Are those the kids from my presentation?" "And others," Anna smiled. "The word has spread. They came from 5 different states to see you." The director of the Congress stepped onto the stage to give the opening remarks. "Today we have a special session." His voice echoed through the speakers. "Much has been said about the future of aviation, about new technologies and challenges. But today we're going to talk about something even more fundamental. Who will be the pilots of tomorrow?" Sophia took a deep breath, mentally reviewing every point of her presentation. It was no longer just a speech. It was the testimony of a journey that could open doors for so many others. "To talk about this," the director continued, "we have a special guest. Someone who, at 12 years old, didn't just dream of aviation, but proved that competence and passion have no age. Please welcome Sophia Martinez." The silence that followed as Sophia walked up to the stage was almost tangible. Some people in the audience whispered, others watched her with evident curiosity. In the front row, a group of executives stared at her with skeptical expressions. Sophia adjusted the microphone and looked out at the audience. For a moment, all her preparation seemed to evaporate. Then her eyes landed on a little girl in the third row, the same one with the stuffed airplane from her first presentation. The girl smiled and waved, giving Sophia the courage she needed. "Good afternoon," her voice came out clear and steady. "Much has been said about the right age to start in aviation. About excessive pressure and risks. About dreams that are too big for little children." She paused, letting the words echo. "But today I'm not here to talk about age, risks, or limitations. I'm here to talk about possibilities. About how to turn passion into a profession with safety, responsibility, and above all, respect for each person's dream." With a click, she projected her first image, a vintage photo of the 1952 program that James had found. This photo is over 70 years old. It shows the country's first structured youth aviation training program. Many of those young people became respected captains, dedicated instructors, professionals who helped build our aviation. Another click, and now a sequence of images showing her own journey, studying, in the simulator, helping during the emergency of Flight 2743. "When that co-pilot needed help, it wasn't luck or coincidence that allowed me to assist. It was years of serious study, dedicated practice, passion turned into real knowledge." Sophia then began to present the data she had compiled with the help of Anna and Maria. Safety statistics, training protocols, psychological evaluations. Everything documented, verified, and proven. The Young Pilots program is not about putting children in risky situations. It's about providing structure, guidance, and support so that natural talents can flourish in a safe and responsible way. In the audience, the executives began exchanging impressed glances. Some were taking furious notes. But beyond the numbers and protocols, there's something more important. Sophia paused dramatically. There's the sparkle in a child's eyes when they discover their calling. There's the joy of realizing that some dreams, no matter how big they seem, are achievable with dedication and the right support. She then invited James Anderson to the stage. The co-pilot, visibly moved, shared his perspective on the day of Flight 2743. "It wasn't just technical knowledge I saw that night," he testified. "I saw maturity, professionalism, and, above all, the proof that when we give our children the right tools, they can surprise us in the most extraordinary ways." Sophia continued, presenting testimonials from other young pilots, parents, instructors. Each story reinforced her message. The program wasn't a reckless adventure, but a structured path to shaping the professionals of the future. "And for those who still doubt," she said, nearing the end, "I ask, when was the last time you truly looked into the eyes of a child and saw not just who they are, but who they can become?" The silence that followed was broken by applause. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet. Regina was crying openly backstage. Anna and Maria embraced each other, proud. But the most significant moment was yet to come. The president of the country's largest airline stood up and asked for the microphone. "Miss Martinez," he said, his deep voice echoing through the auditorium. Today you not only defended a program, you showed us the future of aviation. On behalf of the National Council of Airlines, I announce our full commitment to the expansion of the Young Pilots program. The audience erupted into applause once again. Children ran to the stage wanting to hug Sophia. Parents cried, executives exchanged business cards, journalists snapped photos. Amid the chaos, Sophia met her mother's gaze backstage. In that moment, both knew, this wasn't the end of a journey, but the true beginning of something much bigger. Because sometimes, the most important flight isn't the one that takes us to the skies, but the one that paves the way for others to soar as well. 6 months had passed since the National Aviation Congress. The fall sky painted in golden hues as Sophia walked through the airport's courtyard, now as familiar as her own backyard. Her cadet uniform now bore new insignias, recognitions earned with dedication and study over the past few months. The Young Pilots program had not only survived the controversy, it had flourished. 5 new training centers were opened in different states, each following the rigorous protocols Sophia had helped develop. More than 200 young talents, ages 12 to 17, were now pursuing their dreams in a structured and safe environment. Ready for the big day? Regina asked, adjusting the junior instructor badge on her daughter's uniform. Sophia smiled, watching the new students arrive for their first lesson, a special class that she would personally help teach. Among them, she recognized the little girl with the stuffed airplane, now in her own cadet uniform. You know, Mom, sometimes I still have to pinch myself to believe all of this is real. Sophia? A familiar voice called out. It was Ana Torres, accompanied by Maria Oliveira and a surprise, James Anderson. We brought something special for your first class as an instructor. James smiled, handing over a carefully wrapped package. Sophia opened the package slowly, her hands trembling slightly. Inside was a navy blue leather-bound book. On the cover, in gold lettering, it read, Manual do Programa de Jovens Pilotos Educao 2024. Open it, Anna urged, her eyes sparkling. On the first page, a special dedication. Para Sofia Martinez que nos enseñó que o suneo e o limite e apenas o comico. Com gratidão, a Comunidade Aeronáutica Brasileira. This is the first copy, Maria explained. Your work, your research, your protocols, everything is here. Each new training center will use this as the foundation. Sophia flipped through the pages, recognizing her own contributions blended with decades of aviation expertise. It was the perfect blend of tradition and innovation, experience and fresh perspectives. And there's more, James added, handing over an official envelope. The airline is launching a mentorship program. You'll be the bridge between the veterans and the new cadets. Regina watched everything with tears in her eyes, remembering how hard she had fought against her daughter's dream. How wrong she had been. Sophia had not only realized her own dream, she had opened doors for so many others. Time to begin, Anna announced, gesturing to the group of new students who were eagerly waiting. Sophia took a deep breath and walked toward them. 15 young faces stared back at her, a mix of admiration and anticipation in their eyes. Among them was the little girl with the stuffed airplane, Julia, as her name was, clutching a notebook already filled with notes. Welcome to the Young Pilots program, Sophia began, her voice clear and confident. Each of you is here because you have a dream. Some of you may have heard that you're too young, that it's too hard, that it's impossible. She paused, letting the words sink in as she saw the same spark in their eyes that she had once seen in her own reflection. But let me tell you a secret. The best dreams are the ones that others say are impossible. Because it's those dreams that make us grow, that challenge us to be more than we ever thought possible. Sophia then led the students on a tour of the training center. She showed them the simulators where she would spend countless hours with them, the classrooms where they would unravel the mysteries of meteorology and navigation, and the hangar where they would learn about aircraft mechanics. Meanwhile, Regina was talking with other parents, sharing her own journey of transformation, from a fearful mother to a steadfast supporter of her daughter's dreams. At the end of the day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Sophia found a quiet moment with her mother at the airport lookout. You know, Mom, I remember the day you tried to take away my simulator, Sophia said, watching a plane take off. Back then, I thought it was the end of the world. Regina embraced her daughter. And now? Now I understand that every no I received made me fight harder for my dream. It made me prove, first to myself, then to the world, that some dreams are too big to be contained. A group of her new students ran by, eagerly discussing what they had just learned. Julia paused briefly, proudly showing off her first cadet badge. And you know what's even more incredible? Sophia continued, seeing that same dream spark in the eyes of other kids. Knowing that our story is helping other families believe it's possible. Sophia's phone buzzed. It was a message from Commander Carlos. The co-pilot she had helped save had been promoted to commander and wanted her to be there for his first flight in that role. It's funny how life works, Regina reflected. Sometimes we need an emergency to discover our true strength. Sophia smiled, watching another plane cut through the evening sky. And sometimes we just need someone to believe in us even when we doubt ourselves. The future stretched out before them like an endless sky. The young pilots program would keep growing, touching more lives, making more dreams come true. And Sophia would be there, not only flying but helping others find their own wings. Because in the end, she had learned the most important lesson of all. The best flights aren't the ones we take alone, but those that inspire others to soar too. Dear Life Stories viewers, if this story of determination, dreams, and overcoming challenges moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your comments mean a lot to us. Let us know what you thought of Sophia's journey, and if you have a dream that feels impossible. Share this video with those who need to believe that their dreams can indeed come true. Together, we can inspire more people to chase their own skies. Until the next story.